Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Ro and today I'm going to do my November wrap up. I'm so sorry I have been away for 4 weeks. The last video I uploaded was my October wrap up, so here we are. I'm going to try and be a little bit more consistent with my weeks after the new year, but I can't promise anything from here to January because I am going to be very busy. Going to be going to the coast with my family, so I'm not going to have a lot of time to do the videos. The first book I want to talk about is a book that I did not give any ratings, so I'm going to discuss this one first, and that is Friends, Lovers and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry. I read this, I listened to this on audiobook, so I don't have the physical copy, but I didn't want to give any rating to this one because it is a very hard read. It's got a lot going on. My nephew's here and he's making a lot of noise, and there's a bird that's squawking outside the window and he's so loud. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it's really throwing me off. So anyway, so this book was just really, really sad. There was a lot of depressing moments in this book, and of course that's you know to be expected, especially if you know a little bit about his life and what he went through. He had a substance abuse problem, so there's a lot of that in there, a lot of relapsing and things like that. There's some cool little bits about friends and his experience on that, and he talks about his relationships, and he even discusses his relationship with Julia Roberts, which I didn't know. I did not know they dated, but that's pretty cool. I thought it was very interesting. And yes, I did read this after his passing. I'm a huge Friends fan, so I decided to put this as a priority on my list. In this video, we're going to go from my lowest to highest star rating. The next book I gave 2 stars, and it is Writing Retreat, or The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. Now, this is my first Julia Bartz book. I have not read any of her books before, but this book, a lot of the people that I follow, that I'm subscribed to on BookTube, enjoyed this. I hated it. I didn't finish this. I think I stopped at the 78% mark. I was listening to the audiobook and reading it on my Kindle at the same time, which is what I tend to do with a lot of my books because I retain that information better that way. And once you find out what's going on and the reveal happens, I lost interest. I did not like the twist, as you could say. I didn't like where this book was going. I thought it was going to be a lot more of a mystery, and it kind of just, I don't know, I didn't like where it went. Everything up to that point was so interesting. I was so excited to see where this was going, and yeah. There was smut that was just felt out of place. The characters were so unlikable. Like, I didn't like any of them. And look, I'm happy to follow some unlikable characters, especially if they're intriguing, but these characters were so boring and I just did not care. And this did have a lot of negative talk about religion, and I am a Christian, so that bothered me a little bit. I didn't like that negativity that they were putting towards Christianity. I felt like it was pretty offensive, to be honest. I just think that it didn't have to be in there. Like, it wasn't anything needed for the plot to, continue. I'm all fine with, that kind of stuff if it has to do with the plot, but it didn't, and it just felt like the author was just being kind of nasty, and I didn't like it. That is it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. But yeah, I did not like The Writing Retreat. The next one I gave 3.5 stars, and it is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas. I have loved all the books so far, and I did really enjoy this, but it is a chunker and it is pretty slow paced. I did find myself a little bit bored sometimes, but I loved the action scenes in this, so that's why it does get a 3.5. I really did enjoy the story, but not as much as the previous books. So, I haven't been telling you guys what these books are about. Well, actually, the last book I didn't tell you about, but it's fine. I don't want to talk about The Writing Retreat anymore. Sorry. Just go on Goodreads and read what it's about, because I don't want to talk about it. This is part of the Throne of Glass series, and it is very well loved and popular. It is YA fantasy, and I really enjoy this series. It basically follows Selena Sardothien, who is an assassin. She gets hired by, what's his name? And she gets hired by this guy. She absolutely hates him because he's the reason why her family has died. And so she's like basically an orphan. She was part of this assassins group, and the guy hires her to be his assassin. And I'm going to stop talking because I don't want to give anything away. Okay, so the next book I gave 4 stars to is Left Behind by Tim LaHaye and what's the other guy's name? Jerry B. Jenkins. And this is a fictional account of the book of Revelations in the Bible. So this is, end of times, what's going to happen when the rapture happens. And if you guys aren't Christians and you don't know, there's this thing called the rapture when God's people get taken away before, the world goes into this crazy tribulation period where the Antichrist comes basically and he rules the world. Everyone's going to love him because they're going to think he's some sort of savior, but he's not. And the world's going to be great for a bit, and then all of a sudden all these bad things are going to happen. So this book is the first book in a series, and the series is long. I think there's like 20 something books. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but there's a lot of books. And so this one's the first one. This is basically what happens when the rapture first happens. So this follows the main guy. I forgot his name. I'm not good with names. He's on a plane at the beginning. People are like screaming and crying and whatever. He's the pilot and he goes out to check out what's going on. And people have disappeared and their clothes are like literally on the seats. And he's like, what the heck? And he goes home and finds that his wife and his son are not home. They've disappeared. And it's just him and his estranged daughter. He's trying to kind of figure out what's going on, doesn't know anything about the rapture. And then when he starts to kind of piece things together, he realizes, oh, this is what happened. And, his wife was right and this happened. And now he has to prepare himself because he had heard his wife talk about the rapture before and what's going to come when the Antichrist comes. So it's really fun, fast-paced, interesting. You don't have to be a Christian to enjoy this. I can't wait to continue the series. I gave this one 4 stars because the action hasn't started yet, but I did really, really enjoy the story. I thought it was really fast-paced, really easy to follow. There's not a lot of Christian themes being pushed in your face too much, so if that's something that kind of puts you off and you're not a Christian, this doesn't have that, but I can't speak for the rest of the books because I don't know. It's a little bit intense, but it's a really good thriller. And so if you're interested in kind of the concept that I've explained or what I've just said, definitely check it out. So the next book I want to talk about is The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. I had heard that Liv Constantine is a duo. I thought it was one woman for some reason. But anyway, this is a really popular book. It was definitely a good book. I think that the reason I didn't give it 5 stars or anything higher than 4 is because I have kind of seen this story being done before, and sadly, if I had read this earlier, this might have been like the blueprint for me, but because I had already seen this happen before, it wasn't anything like crazy new or exciting for me, but I really liked it. This follows a con artist who befriends this woman who's rich, and they become really good friends, and she gets kind of like involved with the husband, and then stuff happens, but it's not all as it seems. Not everything is good. There was some cool twists. I really, really enjoyed the rich woman's character. I forget her name. I'm so sorry. This is a story that you're going to be following an antagonist that you obviously hate because she's the bad guy, but let's just say what goes around comes around. It's good. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is A Lineage of Grace by Francine Rivers. This is a biblical fiction book. It has 5 different stories of women in the Bible. So it follows Rahab, Tamar, Ruth, Bathsheba, and Mary, and it's fictionalized accounts of the Bible. So it still uses the biblical stories, but obviously there's dialogue and things like that. That's not biblical, so it is biblical fiction in that sense. But this is basically the lineage of Jesus, which is why it's called The Lineage of Grace. This was so good. I gave this 4.5 stars only because there was like 2 stories in here that were really dragging for me, but my favorite was the Rahab story and Ruth and Mary. So for me, Tamar was a little bit dragging, and actually I really liked Bathsheba's story as well. So there are good stories in here, but the first one sort of dragged for me, so I think that that's the only reason I didn't want to give it a 5 star, but it's pretty high anyway, and I definitely recommend it if that's something that you're interested in. I really love Francine Rivers. I Never Spoke About Redeeming Love, which is right here. I had read that a couple of months ago and I hadn't restarted my YouTube account, so I just want to say that book is so good. It does have faith content, so if that's something that you don't want to read in your books, fine. But I will say it is one of the best love stories, and I don't read romance, and I was obsessed with this book. I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. So I just wanted to read more Francine Rivers, and I'm so glad because I really, really enjoyed this. Okay, so I have 2 more books to talk about, and they're both 5 stars. And the first one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is my first Holly Jackson book. This one is about a girl called Pip who has a term paper or a paper for her class. I can't remember how old she is, to be honest. And she decides to kind of investigate a closed case about this girl who went missing, and they think that she was killed by her boyfriend because her boyfriend later left a suicide note and then he died. So she decides to reopen the case in her own way, like trying to kind of figure out what actually happened, because she doesn't actually think this guy Sal did it. And it's just so fun to follow this girl kind of piecing things together. And the romance in this is kind of cute because it's not too in your face. There is a romance. It's very like low key and it's very witty. I listened to the audiobook. This is the original UK version, and I listened to the UK audiobook. I think, you know, always go with the authenticity of the author, and this is from the UK. The author is from the UK. I highly recommend the UK one because I feel like the mixed reviews on this one might be because people were reading it in the US version. But you guys tell me, if you enjoy the US version, then cool. But, you know, I feel like some stuff might have been lost because of that switch up. But this was so much fun. If you like books like One of Us is Lying, I definitely think you would love this book. This was so fun, and I can't wait to read the series. The final 5-star book I want to talk about is Cold Case Christianity by J. Warner Wallace. I wanted to put this one last because it is a non-fiction, and I've been speaking mostly of fiction besides Matthew Perry's book. And so this one is a story about a cold case detective who was an atheist and he wanted to disprove Christianity. So he started to treat the Gospels, so the New Testament Gospels, test like the testimonies, the eye testimonies, the evidence, etc. And he did it by using his way of cold case detecting. And this is so good. This is fantastic. I don't want to go too far into it. If you guys are interested in more Christian content about Christian books, I do have a Christian lifestyle channel, which I will link down below. That will have, like, I just did a video just now about the books that I think every Christian and skeptic should read. I really, really enjoyed this book. That's on my list as well. I go into a little bit more detail in that video, so if you guys are interested, check it out. But yeah, this was fantastic, and 5 stars. It has diagrams of how he like does the detective work, I should say. I highlighted so much in this book, tagged a lot, like there's a lot of highlighting. So this was fantastic, and for anybody who kind of is interested in like doing that research stuff, highly recommend if you are interested. Okay, so that is it for this video. Those are all the books that I read in the month of November. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you guys, and I will see you guys in the next video. Ciao!